Hello people, this is Mark from Kharischangeworks. Guys, hope you are well. Another little short story for you. Guys, this is a story about salt that teaches us something about life's pain and the bitterness therein. Very cleverly written. I shall read that in a bit for you. So before we start, can I just please ask you just to do all the YouTube admin, the share, the subscribe, the liking up, please. That's really good. The old thumbs up. When you hit the bell, pick all. Please comment. Myself and Lara are working hard on this particular channel and we're doing really well. So thank you for your support. So let's get to the little short story and let's see what today's lesson holds for us. It reads as follows. An aging Hindu master grew tired of his apprentice complaining and so one morning sent him for some salt. When the apprentice returned, the master instructed the unhappy young man to put a handful of salt in a glass of water and then to drink it. "How does it taste?" the master asked. "Bitter," spat the apprentice. The master chuckled and then asked the young man to take the same handful of salt and put it in the lake. The two walked in silence to the nearby lake, and once the apprentice swirled his handful of salt in the water, the old man said, "Now drink from the lake." As the water dripped down the young man's chin, the master asked, "How does it taste?" "Fresh," remarked the apprentice. "Did you taste the salt?" asked the master. "No," said the young man. At this the master sat beside the serious young man, who so reminded him of himself, and took his hands and said, "The pain of life is pure salt, no more, no less. The amount of pain remains exactly the same. However, the amount of bitterness we taste depends on the container we put the pain in. So when you are in pain, the only thing you can do is to enlarge your sense of things. Stop being a glass. Become a lake." There you go, my friend. It's an interesting story. You see, life is full of pain. There is not a lot you or I can do about it. Maybe it is because we are human and we are emotional. Maybe it's because we rub each other up the wrong way. It might be that we have different opinions. We've got different points of view. We've got different political viewpoints and different religious expressions. It could be the fact that our cultures and our traditions are different from one another. And because of these differences, or how subtle they might be, or how stark and sharp they might be too, at some point something's going to happen and you're going to experience some form of pain based on before mentioned issues. Now what the young man didn't understand is he was complaining all the time about life's problems and how it affected him. He didn't quite understand that complaining also caused some form of unrest in the people who were hearing him complaining all the time. Is it wear and tear? I don't know. Maybe you can tell me. But what I found interesting is how the master got sick and tired of it. And he then decided to do an interesting little experiment with this complaining little man. Go to the shop and buy salt. Take a handful and put it in a little cup of water and drink from the cup. You know as well as I do, when you put too much salt in your food, instead of flavoring it, it now makes it taste quite horrible and tart. That's why when you follow recipes, they will tell you to put a certain amount of salt in, because you see, the cook, the chef, they've experimented with salt. Too much salt in your system is bad for you. Not enough salt causes other problems. So that sodium level always has to be just right. But we need salt in our lives. We need salt in our food. Our diet is depending on salt to do certain things. But this master had another plan. He had to teach this young little whippersnapper a lesson and told him to put too much salt in the water. And when he drank it, I can feel it in my own body. It must have been quite a disgusting taste. But then when the master decided he was going to take the volume of water and increase it massively, same amount of salt, and when you throw it in a lake, the lake doesn't even know that salt's been put in it. And yet when you drink the water, even where the salt was, you will not be able to taste the salt because it dissolves. And the young man learnt a very valuable lesson, that you can choose to load yourself up with so much salt, with the pain and the bitterness that it itself brings. And how easy is it in today's society, especially when people come and hurt you, they disappoint you, they let you down, the very things that we as people do. In fact, that was something that I told the narcissist in my life right at the beginning when we originally got married. Is to be aware that I will let her down, I will disappoint her and I will hurt her because it's human nature. And I expect her to do exactly the same because it's human nature. The difference is when you do it deliberately, that's another problem. And I can remember very clearly, it was on our wedding night where she said to me, well, that's unfair. You should have higher expectations of me. Says the narc who stabbed me in the back and basically destroyed my life. Interesting, isn't it? Now when it comes down to the salt, I could take that and I could really make myself incredibly bitter and angry because of her narrow attitude towards life. Her I can only see things my way kind of approach to life, which of course, if you know anything about narcissists, you will understand that that is the way that it is. You see, I can make myself as small as a cup, or I can make myself as big as the sea regarding the amount of salt, the pain I carry, the pain I choose to hold in my mind, the pain I choose to remember and recount over and over again. I choose the volume of my vessel as far as this pain is concerned. You see, my friend, this is how I see it. The more you recount about the pain, the more you hang on to the pain. Now, if you want to get rid of it, deal with it in the appropriate manner. Myself and Lara, we have studied NLP and we've studied hypnotherapy, and more recently I've qualified as a eye movement therapist. We know how to deal with these things. But by recanting and reliving it and revivizing this thing and seeing it over and over again and remembering it and feeling sorry for yourself does not enlarge your vessel. In fact, it might shrink the vessel to make it even more bitter than what it was originally. You see, my friend, it's not the vessel itself in you that matters. It is the way that you deal with this pain. And the way that you deal with it is if you recount it over and over and over and over again and you tell everybody about your pain, and people get sick and tired of hearing your pain and they don't want to know about it anymore. You're shrinking the vessel, that's you. However, on the flip side of this, if you decide, listen, I've had enough of this pain, I'm going to do something about it, and you see someone like myself or Lara and we help you through it, and you expand and you choose to let go and you choose to forgive, and you choose to move on, and you choose to learn from these experiences. My friend, up here, your vessel is growing and growing and growing, and eventually it becomes the same size as the sea. And you won't be able to taste the salty water. Now, I know that the sea is salty, it's a metaphor. Expand the vessel of your mind, expand the volume of growth, expand the volume of your development, expand the volume of your grace and forgiveness, expand who you are. Don't shrink. Don't be such a concentration of bitterness that everywhere you go you just end up as an ogre and violent and horrible and people don't want to know. Rather expand and help people through these issues and problems and make a difference in life. Yes, we need salt. It keeps us humble. It flavors. It preserves. But too much salt, man, go to any seaside venue, it doesn't matter where. If you live on the coast, you'll know exactly what I'm on about. If you've got a little crack in your car, and that sea salt hits it, before you know it, you've got a problem with rust. So as much as salt flavors and preserves, it's also a destructive thing. That's why you need it in balance. Make sure that your vessel is big enough for the amount of salt that it needs to contain in order just to have that balance just right. But my encouragement is to say, expand the vessel, not the salt. Because let me tell you now, all you've got to do is speak to your next door neighbor and speak to the next door neighbor and speak to your friend up the road and your other pal down the road. And before you know it, you will be inundated with pain if you listen to what they're saying. Not necessarily the words, but the message. You'll find that there's a lot of pain in the world. And our job here is just to expand the vessel. Especially if you yourself have been through some serious stuff. It's a fact of life, I'm afraid. We can't escape these things, but we can do something constructive about it. And that's the message of today's story. You are flexible. You are expandable. But the salt will always be salt. Be like a balloon that just grows. And don't let the past negative, nasty experiences and memories contaminate and control your future. Is that really worth the effort? Especially when it's salty? It's just a observation. It's an encouragement to say, let it go. You change the vessel inside your heart, change the vessel inside your mind, change the vessel in terms of your language and how you speak about your past. And notice the difference, not what other people will experience, but they will experience some changes too. But you yourself will experience the greatest amount of change. And just like that young man who then learned that if you put it in an appropriately sized, if oversized vessel, you don't taste the salt. That's all I want to say today. You are a vessel that can grow and expand. My friend, I'm sure that you will have maybe a friend or a family member or someone else that might need this to hear this information today. If so, please let them know. Tell them to share the video to them and ask them to subscribe to the channel, and then they can get these things direct. Keep the channel, keep it growing. Hence the YouTube admin stuff, please. For now, this is Mark from Kharischangeworks. I'll speak to you soon.